A is for Autumn, by Black Orchid. My mom has a thing for naming her kids after nature. There's me, Autumn named as an ode to the season I was born in, and my younger sister Lily after her favorite flower. And then there's Jeremy, my older brother who got off easy with a name that doesn't scream nature-inspired. But hey, I've grown to love my name. After all, it's pretty fitting considering my love for crisp leaves and pumpkin spice lattes. My brother's Jeremy's town was an amazing place to be at, especially autumn season. So there I was, standing on the porch of my brother's house in the charming town of Maplewood. It was my 5th visit, and every time I stepped foot in this place, it felt like a warm embrace. The air was filled with the scent of freshly baked apple pies, and the leaves were putting on a show of reds and golds. It was autumn, my favorite season, and I was ready to take a leap of faith and make this town my new home. Within a year from then, that dream materialized. Alicia, my sister-in-law, knew about my Maplewood infatuation. She was the one who had recommended me for a kindergarten teaching position at her school. And let me tell you, if Alicia recommends you for something, you better bet you'll get it. So, with a mix of excitement and apprehension, I waved goodbye to my old school, packed up my classroom decorations, and said farewell to my beloved students who were convinced I was running off to join the circus. But change is good, right? That's what I kept telling myself as I tearfully said goodbye to my colleagues who couldn't believe I was leaving. "You're like a burst of sunshine in the morning meetings," my friend Sarah had said through sniffles. "Who will bring in homemade cookies on Mondays now?" "It's not goodbye, it's just a see you later," I reassured them, clutching my box of stationery and motivational posters. After my tearful departure, it was time to face the hardest goodbye of all, my mom and Lily. They were both having a meltdown about me leaving the nest. I mean, seriously, you'd think I was migrating to the other side of the world. "Autumn, are you sure about this?" my mom sniffled, holding onto my arm like she was afraid I'd evaporate into thin air. "Yes, Mom, I'm sure," I said, giving her a reassuring hug. "Maplewood is calling my name and I need to answer." As I boarded the plane, I wiped away my tears, mentally preparing myself for this new adventure. Jeremy and Alicia were waiting for me at the other end, beaming with excitement. I may have hugged them a little too enthusiastically, but who could blame me? I was about to start a new chapter in the town that felt like a warm, cozy blanket on a chilly autumn day. Jeremy and Alicia were the best hosts ever. I stayed with them while I hunted for my own apartment, and let me tell you, being the third wheel to a married couple can have its perks. Like, for example, not having to cook or do laundry. It was like living in a luxury resort, minus the daily towel animals. I finally found the perfect apartment not too far from Jeremy's place. It was my first time living on my own, and I was determined to make it work. The transition was a bit rough at first. I accidentally flooded the kitchen while trying to fix a leaky faucet. But once I got the hang of it, I was happier and more reassured than ever that moving here was the right decision. As I settled into my new routine, I discovered that teaching kindergarten was like herding a bunch of adorable, energetic kittens. Alicia was my go-to for advice, even though she taught 6th grade. We'd meet up after school and compare stories about the hilariously random things our students said and did. Let me tell you, kids have a way of keeping life interesting. Then, one fateful Saturday morning, everything changed. I was at the supermarket, minding my own business as I contemplated the merits of crunchy versus creamy peanut butter, when a deep male voice called out my full name from behind. "Autumn Summers!" I turned around in shock, only to find myself face to face with a blast from my past, a blast that went by the name of Miguel Ramos. My eyes widened, and before I could stop myself, I blurted out, "Miguel Ramos," I said with a hint of disgust in my voice. But Miguel, the Miguel from my school days, was not the same guy standing before me now. In fact, he was practically unrecognizable. Gone were the gangly limbs and awkward grin. Instead, here stood a hunk of a man with a soldering smile and a confidence that practically radiated from him. I blinked, trying to wrap my head around the fact that Miguel Ramos was now a bona fide heartthrob. I may have let my gaze linger for a moment longer than necessary, but then reality kicked in. This was Miguel Ramos we were talking about, the same guy who once pulled a prank that involved swapping my peanut butter sandwich with a ketchup-covered one. Autumn, right? The girl who's named after 2 seasons, he said, his tone playful. My lips twisted into a wry smile. Yes, that's me. Autumn. The girl who thought she'd escaped the clutches of Miguel Ramos. He laughed, a deep, rich sound that sent shivers down my spine. Well, I'm all grown up now. I promise. No more ketchup sandwiches. I raised an eyebrow, skeptical of his newfound maturity. We'll see about that. Miguel leaned casually against the shopping cart, his gaze never leaving mine. You know, I've actually been living in Maplewood since my family moved. I blinked, caught off guard. Wait, what? How come Jeremy never mentioned that you live here? Miguel shrugged, a mischievous twinkle in his eyes. Guess he forgot to mention it, and honestly, I didn't know you were here until I saw you in the store. I rolled my eyes, a mixture of annoyance and intrigue bubbling within me. Well, I'm not exactly throwing a welcome party. Miguel chuckled, a sound that was infuriatingly charming. Fair enough. But hey, maybe we can grab coffee sometime, catch up on old times. I narrowed my eyes at him, not quite sure what game he was playing. Coffee? Is that your new way of pranking people? Miguel held up his hands in mock surrender. I promise, no pranks this time. Just a chance to show you that I've changed. I hesitated for a moment, my mind racing with conflicting thoughts. The guy who once tormented me was now standing before me, all grown up and seemingly genuine. Was it possible that Miguel Ramos had actually matured? With a sigh, I relented, a small smile tugging at the corner of my lips. All right, fine. Coffee it is. But don't think you're off the hook that easily. Miguel grinned, his eyes dancing with amusement. Deal. As I turned to continue my shopping, I couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement mixed with a healthy dose of skepticism. Who would have thought that my new chapter in Maplewood would involve a blast from my past and a potential coffee date with a guy who once made my school days a whirlwind of chaos and laughter? Little did I know, this autumn was about to become even more unpredictable and hilarious than I could have ever imagined. Later that afternoon, Jeremy and Alicia joined me for dinner at my new apartment. We gathered around the table, feasting on a delicious spread that Alicia had whipped up. And by whipped up, I mean she probably spent hours in the kitchen perfecting every dish. She insisted on making dinner. As we laughed and chatted about my recent move and the kindergarten chaos that had become my daily life, I couldn't help but sneak playful glances at Jeremy. The guy had a way of making everything feel lighter and more fun. And well, I had a bone to pick with him. A Miguel Ramos-shaped bone. Hey, Jer, I said, flashing him an innocent smile. Mind if I ask you something? Jeremy raised an eyebrow, a knowing grin playing on his lips. Oh, I know that look. What's up, Autumn? I leaned across the table, my tone playful. So, remember that time you conveniently forgot to mention that Miguel Ramos lives in Maplewood? Jeremy chuckled, his eyes twinkling with mischief. Ah, you found out, huh? I playfully wrestled with him, causing him to laugh even harder. Why didn't you tell me, huh? You knew I'd probably run into him sooner or later. Jeremy managed to escape my grip, raising his hands in mock surrender. I figured you'd get over his antics by now. Alicia's laughter filling the room. She quizzed, "What's the deal with Miguel Ramos?" I rolled my eyes, but a smile tugged at my lips. Jeremy leaned back in his chair, a mischievous glint in his eyes. It's a long story. Alicia's eyes lit up, and she looked at me expectantly. Oh, come on, Autumn. You have to share the story. I sighed dramatically, realizing I was outnumbered. Fine, but only because you two are so persistent. So there we were, with Jeremy gleefully recounting every hilarious and absurd encounter I had with Miguel Ramos. From the time he convinced me that my backpack had turned into a helium balloon to the infamous ketchup sandwich incident, Jeremy painted a picture of our childhood rivalry that had us all in stitches. Alicia wiped away tears of laughter as she clapped her hands. Oh my goodness, Autumn, you were such a trooper. I rolled my eyes, trying not to laugh. Alicia winked at me, a mischievous glint in her eyes. Well, I have some juicy gossip for you, Autumn. Miguel Ramos is currently on Maplewood's list for most handsome eligible bachelors. I nearly choked on my food, my eyes widening in disbelief. What? No way. Jeremy joined in, a playful grin on his face. Oh yeah. The guy's apparently quite the catch now. He is next in line to take over his dad's contracting firm. The Ramos family had really made a name for themselves after moving to Maplewood. I shook my head in amazement. Well, he's certainly come a long way from his catch-up days. Alicia and Jeremy exchanged a knowing glance, a silent communication passing between them. And then I dropped the bomb, the news that had them both stopping mid-bite. He asked me out for coffee, I said, trying to sound nonchalant but failing miserably. What? They exclaimed in unison, their jaws practically hitting the table. Jeremy's eyes widened, his fork suspended in the air. Wait, hold on. Did you accept the offer? I shrugged, feeling a mix of excitement and uncertainty. Yeah, I guess. We're adults now, right? Jeremy burst into laughter, nearly spitting out his food. I swear I never saw this one coming. Arch nemesis turned lovers. I hushed him, my cheeks flushing slightly. It's just a coffee date, guys. Let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Alicia grinned from ear to ear, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Oh, come on, Autumn, this is going to be epic. I can't wait to see how it unfolds. As we continued our dinner, laughter filling the room, I couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement. Who would have thought that my Maplewood adventure would involve not just a blast from the past, but a potential romantic twist as well? One thing was for sure. This autumn was shaping up to be one heck of a ride. Part 2. Pumpkins, Pastries, and Peculiar Feelings. The day of our coffee date with Miguel had finally arrived, and I was a mixture of excitement and nervousness. I stood before my mirror, debating my outfit choice for the umpteenth time. After all, first impressions were important. I finally settled on a fitted burnt orange turtleneck paired with high-waisted jeans. Topping it all off was a beautiful rust-colored coat that made me feel like the embodiment of autumn itself. A pair of comfortable boots completed the ensemble, and I was ready to face whatever this date had in store. When Miguel suggested the enchanted pumpkin patch meadows for our first date, I knew he had me pegged. I mean, who could resist a pumpkin patch during autumn? As we arrived, my breath was quite literally taken away. It was as if I had stepped into a fairy tale. Fields of pumpkins in every imaginable shape and size surrounded us, each one more vibrant and inviting than the last. The air was alive with the sense of the season, earthiness, fallen leaves, and the irresistible aroma of freshly baked treats. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves above, casting a golden confetti shower upon us. It was like stepping into a dream. We strolled hand in hand through the patch, laughter and excitement filling the air around us. Families engaged in various activities, from picking pumpkins to participating in traditional games. We made our way to a baked goods booth, where the heavenly scent of cinnamon and sugar enveloped us. We indulged in an assortment of cinnamon-baked treats and steaming cups of hot chocolate, finding a cozy spot to sit and catch up on old times. As we talked, I couldn't help but notice Miguel's physique, a living testament to dedication and discipline. His chiseled features and sculpted body seemed to defy gravity, and I found myself stealing glances whenever I thought he wouldn't notice. And those eyes, oh, those eyes. A rich, warm brown that held depths of stories and emotions that I could only begin to fathom. Miguel looked equally striking in his black sweatshirt and brown jacket coat. His presence exuded confidence and a touch of rugged charm that was impossible to ignore. I was truly mesmerized, and yet here we were, catching up and laughing like old friends. The day stretched on, each moment more enchanting than the last. We embarked on a pumpkin painting adventure, engaging in a friendly competition to see who could create the most artistic masterpiece. Spoiler alert. I won, but Miguel argued that I might have had an unfair advantage due to my kindergarten teacher skills. Our laughter carried on as we tried our hand at corn mazes and took goofy pictures by the scarecrow display. We relished in the camaraderie that had effortlessly settled between us. I was amazed at how easy it was to be around him, how our conversations flowed naturally, and how his smile seemed to brighten even the cloudiest of moments. In the following weeks, Miguel and I found ourselves spending more and more time together. We explored Maplewood's hidden gems, shared stories, and discovered common interests. I never planned on falling for anyone, especially not my childhood nemesis, but life had its own plans. Miguel was no longer the mischievous prankster of our youth. He was someone who made my heart skip a beat with a single glance. It was Halloween night, and as we walked through the streets of Maplewood, the air was thick with excitement. Houses were decked out in spooky decor, and laughter echoed from every corner as trick-or-treaters roamed the neighborhood. Miguel and I had carved pumpkins earlier in the day, each one bearing a unique design that showcased our individuality. As he walked me home, I couldn't help but feel a sense of contentment. The moon cast a soft glow on the streets, and the crunch of fallen leaves underfoot added to the magic of the moment. As we reached my doorstep, Miguel took a deep breath, his eyes locking onto mine. "Autumn," he began, his voice carrying a hint of nervousness. "There's something I've been wanting to say." My heart raced and I swallowed hard, anticipation building in the air. He stepped closer, his gaze unwavering. "I know this might seem sudden, but I've realized something over the past few weeks. Autumn, I love spending time with you. I love how you've embraced Maplewood and its magic. I love how you make me laugh and how you challenge me. I love you." My breath caught in my throat as his confession hung in the air. Love? It was a word I hadn't expected to hear, not so soon and certainly not from him. But in that moment, everything felt right. The pumpkin patch, the laughter, the shared moments, it all led to this. Tears welled up in my eyes as I took a step closer to him. "Miguel, I never thought I'd hear those words from you of all people." He chuckled softly, his hand reaching for mine. "Yeah, well, life has a funny way of surprising us, doesn't it?" I nodded, a smile tugging at my lips. "It certainly does." And as we stood there on Halloween night, under the watchful gaze of the moon and surrounded by the enchantment of Maplewood, I knew that this was just the beginning. Our journey from childhood rivals to lovers was a tale written in the stars, a story of unexpected connections and the beauty of second chances. Part 3: Turkeys, Tamales, and Twisted Fate. As the Thanksgiving day approached, I found myself getting ready for a big step in my relationship with Miguel, meeting his family. Yes, you heard that right. Miguel was finally going to introduce me to the Ramos clan. And let me tell you, the anticipation was real. Miguel had kept our relationship a secret from them because he knew they'd never believe he'd fall for the girl he tormented as a child. Oh, the irony. So there I was, standing in front of my closet, debating my outfit choice for this monumental occasion. I finally settled on a long-sleeved, plum-colored mini-wrap dress that accentuated my curves just right. A matching plum-colored jacket, black stockings, and a pair of sleek black high-heeled boots completed the ensemble. I styled my blonde hair as glamorous pin curls and complementing makeup. If I was going to meet Miguel's family, I was going to do it in style. Miguel offered to drive me, but I declined, opting to drive myself to their house. I figured it would be best to make a grand entrance, and I wasn't wrong. When I rang the doorbell, Miguel answered, his eyes lighting up at the sight of me. He dropped a sweet kiss on my forehead, and I couldn't help but feel a wave of warmth spread through me. "You look absolutely gorgeous, babe," he murmured, his smile infectious. He led me into the dining room, his voice ringing out as he announced my arrival to the whole room. The sudden hush that fell over the gathering was palpable. All eyes were on us as we walked in, and I swear you could have heard a pin drop. "Autumn Summers!" Miguel's mother exclaimed, her voice a mix of shock and delight. His siblings and father gasped, the realization dawning on them. Yes, it was me, the same Autumn who used to play with Miguel back in the day. Mrs. Marcella, Miguel's mother, rushed over and enveloped me in a tight hug, her emotions evident in her watery eyes. "You've grown so beautifully," she said, her voice laced with genuine emotion. "We've missed you. I knew your brother and his wife had moved to Maplewood, but I didn't know you were here too." When my dad passed away, the Ramos family had extended a helping hand, looking out for us while my mom worked tirelessly to support our little family. Now here we were, years later, facing each other under such unexpected circumstances. Miguel's younger brothers, Jorge and Emilio, joined in the group hug, still in a state of shock and excitement. "Papa, look, it's Mrs. Sommer's first daughter, Autumn. Isn't she beautiful?" Jorge exclaimed. His dad, Miguel Sr., joined the group, offering his own warm hug and words of welcome. "Eres hermosa," he said, which translates to, "You are beautiful." The warmth of their reception made me feel like I was coming home after a long journey. As the evening unfolded, I was introduced to the rest of the extended family members who had gathered for the occasion, over 40 people in total. The air was filled with laughter, animated conversations, and the mouth-watering aroma of traditional Mexican dishes. Tables were laden with tamales, enchiladas, pozole, and an array of other delectable treats. I was in food heaven, and let me tell you, I didn't hold back. Each dish was more flavorful than the last, and I couldn't resist going back for seconds and thirds. Amidst the feasting, there were heartwarming traditions, like the passing down of family recipes and stories. Everyone shared their favorite memories, and I was quickly made to feel like part of the Ramos clan. And of course, there was laughter. Oh, so much laughter. Miguel's uncle, Carlos, decided to share an embarrassing childhood story about Miguel, much to his chagrin. Apparently, Miguel had a habit of getting himself stuck in some unusual places. It was a tale filled with comedic twists and turns, and I couldn't help but burst into fits of laughter along with everyone else. As the night grew late, Miguel and I found ourselves stealing a quiet moment in a cozy corner of the backyard. The stars twinkled above, and a soft breeze rustled the leaves, creating a sense of intimacy and tranquility. "You know," Miguel began, his voice tender, "I can't believe I'm here with you tonight. If you had told me a few years ago that I'd be introducing you as my girlfriend to my entire family, I would have laughed." I chuckled softly, leaning in closer to him. "Life has a funny way of surprising us, doesn't it?" He nodded, his hand finding mine. "It certainly does, and I wouldn't have it any other way." In that moment, I realized just how far we had come. Two childhood foes turned unlikely lovers. Our journey had been filled with twists, turns, and a healthy dose of comedic irony. And as I looked into Miguel's eyes, I knew that our love story was only just beginning. With a soft smile, Miguel leaned in, his lips brushing against mine in a tender, reaffirming kiss. It was a kiss filled with promise, a promise of more laughter, more adventures, and the unwavering love that had blossomed between us. As we pulled away, I couldn't help but grin. "Who would have thought, huh?" I teased, giving his hand a playful squeeze. Miguel chuckled, his eyes shining with affection. "Certainly not me, but I'm so glad I found my way to you." And as we sat there, surrounded by the echoes of laughter and the love of Miguel's family, I knew that this was where I belonged, in a world of twists, turns, and the sweetest kind of surprises.
Escape into a world of love and dreams. Discover your perfect bedtime romance on our channel. Subscribe for heartfelt stories and cozy nights.